All right, I'd like to call to order the June 23rd Alternative Pathways Committee meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion is made by Mr. Sherman and seconded by Ms. Morrison. I guess we should go ahead and vote. Do we want to verbally vote, or I can't see everybody?
No
Usually,
worries.
Mr. Trapp, we don't like this is the way we've been running it in academics.
Yeah.
The academics committee, we'll just have a first motion, second motion, and then we move.
Oh, good. I'm good with that. Okay.
Okay.
So we're good. Okay. We've approved the agenda. We're ready to go. And I will, since I really have no idea what we're talking about, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sherman.
So as we've been called to order, I have the agenda up, and Mr. Trapp, if you'll take a look here and review, if you will approve the agenda, we'll get started on it.
All right. It's approved. We're good to go.
All righty. We shared with you, did you have a chance to look over the minutes from our previous meetings, Mr. Trapp?
I did not. I'm sorry. I glanced at them earlier, but I just completely forgot to pull them up.
No worries, they're here. If you want to take a minute to look through.
Yeah. I did look at them a little bit, and if I can figure out how to move, I know I rarely do this on my computer. I do it on my phone, but I wanted to have access to a bigger screen. And let me see if, okay, I can look at it here. That's probably the best thing to do.
I'll just scroll a little bit here into the meat of it and give you a second to just tell me when to scroll.
Okay, yeah, hold on right there a second. Okay, scroll up just a little bit for the new business. All right. Okay, I think we're good. Thanks.
Very good. So with that, sir, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Very good. All right, 4.1, celebrations we'd like to share with you. Things going on here in student activities. Student services. Big part of our work is cross-divisional, working with other groups within academics, and a lot of these folks represent our LSS staff, and that is all of your helpers. That's your social workers, your school counselors, school psychologists, your nurses. And while they have worked very well at each campus, we recognize a lot of times that work is in isolation. And so for years past, we've also always had an LSS staff person of the year, but again, that kind of keeps them in isolation. So we took a different approach this year, and we identified an LSS team. And so for the first time of our team approach to celebrating them, we have Lake Carolina Upper. So this will be our first LSS team of the year, and they are recognized prior to the end of school. Ms. Morrison went out with the team. I think Dr. Moore was able to join them and recognize them, but that's a big celebration, but also bringing an emphasis to that core team working on that campus to impact not only the success of kids, but also supporting staff and administration at each school. So that was a first for us and well celebrated. Another huge accomplishment, Mr. Trapp, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but you probably heard the term BTAM before, and that is our Behavior Threat Assessment and Measures. And that's a significant form and document and process to when we come across a concern on campus, whether it's a threat, a student's threat to themselves or others, we as leaders in LSS and administration have to take steps to kind of review that process. And it starts with a screener and it leads into possibly a full diagnostic of the situation. And while we've always had at least one or two trained staff members on each campus, this is the first time that we took an intentional block of time at our instructional leadership and planning conference. And we trained every administrator in Richland too, to include some DO staff and other LSS members. So that happened that second week of June, but we had our first full-scale BTAM refresher. And so now we can confidently say that every school team is up to speed If a threat
Mhm.
comes their way, they are up to date. We went through, we did scenarios, we did table talk. It was a significant amount of work in a small period of time, but it was needed. And so just a huge step forward to make sure that all of our campuses are prepared. Ms. Hutcherson, I capture all that correctly? Anything I missed on our BTAM refresher?
I think you covered it all.
There you go. And
May
then
I
another
ask a
highlight
quick
for us,
question?
yes, sir, please.
Oh, I was going to, how often, and I'm just curious, but it's how often do we kind of evaluate the way we do this and see if there are ways that we can tweak it and make it more, I hate to say efficient or effective, but that's probably the best words.
Great question. I'll tell you where this approach came from. We, as your LSS staff, came together and we provided BTAM trainers throughout the school year. And that's happened for years now. And so there's always blocks of times built into where if I were an assistant principal at a school and I need to either be initially trained or have a refresher, I could go log on, sign up for that date, and go train. So that's always been available. But we recognize that's also pulling people off your campus. And in the life of a school day, the more folks you pull off campus, while that training is needed, is there a different approach? So we recognize the school year is over. We intentionally had all of our administrators together for the first time collectively. Can we do this training together? So this is our first time as a whole group training. And although that was effective, we're still continuing that model. We'll have refreshers throughout the year. So if we have a brand new staff member getting hired today and they have not had this exposure, they'll still have a window of opportunity for training. But this is our first large group training during off schedule hours where we didn't have a school day impacted by training.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Great question. And then next up, our family intervention services. And that's our group over here at Pinnacle Point, where we have 6 counselors and a significant impact working with families in need. They work individually with students and family counseling. But the biggest thing is they continue to grow by bringing in interns. And this year we just wrapped up 18 counseling interns from University of South Carolina, Columbia College, and Columbia International. And while they work with us for the entire school year, that's also the possibility of them joining Richland too. It's not only is it a training model for them, but it's a recruiting tool for us. So just want to emphasize the impact that that's had and continues to kind of fill our rosters of needed counselors throughout Richland too. So proud of that group. And then next up, LRADAC. We've always had a long-term relationship with the Lexington, Richland area. I should know what all that means. But as our group here in Richland County that works with substance and drug abuse, we've always had a contractual agreement to where our students who make a poor choice here in Richland too, that could be part of their consequence and, kind of reintegration to the school settings to going through that counseling. So that's always been a healthy relationship. But this is the first time this year that we have been awarded a grant by the state working with RADAC, and we actually have one of the counselors working directly with our school systems. They're assigned to Richland too. We currently have them specifically working with students at Blythewood Academy. But this was year 1 of that placement, and it's going to grow next year. But just kind of extending the reach of those services to impact those kids who need them most, whether it's through substance abuse, or anything like that, to include even if we need to move towards more long-term treatment, that window is open for us. And then finally, Blythewood Academy. Ms. Hutcherson, do you want to touch on this a little bit, the SEL group that we're able to carry over this summer?
Yes, I sure will. So this was the first summer in probably, I think, 2 or 3 years that we were able to utilize some of the funding through one of the grants with the FIS department to provide an extended year summer opportunity for middle school students that needed to pass. And so a piece of that is also ensuring that those students also have SEL support. So over the summer, there are opportunities for these students over the course of 3 weeks to get social emotional learning paired with support with content so that they're able to continue opportunities that were started for them during the school year. So we're very, very excited about that opportunity because, again, it's helping kids that are the most vulnerable and need the extended services the most, so that we don't see a summer slide, whether that be academically or behaviorally.
Now, can I ask that that's something we normally don't do, but we were able to do it this year because of a grant?
Yes.
Is that
Mhm.
okay?
And
Okay.
we have that grant also for next year. It's one
Okay.
that's for year to year, but we know for certain that it is approved for the upcoming year as well.
So, Mr. Trapp, as you can see, a lot of moving parts here in student services. We just want to point out how each of these accomplishments kind of impact the work this committee is doing. It has a direct connection with all of our alternate pathways. But just wanted to share those with you. Next up, some unfinished business updates, and I'll click here so we can take a look at it together. First up, and again, you're joining us now, Mr. Trapp. We're trying to bring you up to speed quickly, but the work started here was really looking at internally what's going well here in Richland too, to include, our code of conduct, supporting our staff and students both in the school, on the buses, but also looking at when poor choices are made, what are options for students. And as we know, we have Blythewood Academy. We extended those services this year to a virtual option to accommodate some specific needs, to where we may need to separate some students, or even if there's a direct impact on transportation, we will do some things virtually. But we also recognize that there's some area groups that are doing it very well. So we had scheduled to go to Kershaw and visit with them, and I'm going to Ms. Hutcherson to tell us a little bit about that. And we'd also scheduled to go over to Lex 2. And just because of the timing of the school year, that did not happen, but we reached out, and they do have some summer programming, which means they do have students on campus. So we are still scheduled to go visit with them in July to kind of see what's happening in Lex 2. Ms. Hutcherson, do you want to tell Mr. Trapp a little bit about our visit to Kershaw and their Continuous Learning Center?
Yes, I sure will. One of the things that we are noticing, well, especially whenever we are attending the roundtables hosted by SCASA, where we're collaborating with other student services directors, executive directors, is the way that their alternative settings are established. And what I mean by that is making sure that there are layered interventions for students, and that the culture and environment exudes one that students understand that expectations are clear, but there are adults in the building that are there to help scaffold you from where you are to be able to be successful. And so one of the things that we noticed when we entered was just the environment within itself. Whether that was from the front office, the teachers, the students, all of them were able to articulate clearly the mission and the vision, just like you would see it in our traditional school setting. And it was one that fostered support and other positives. And it was whether we talked to a student, a random student in the hallway, or if we talked to a student that was in a math class, they all were able to articulate the mission and the vision and be very specific about the goals that they established to be successful, to the point that some of the students preferred the environment, not because it was more relaxed, but they felt that they found success based on the interventions that were in place. And so Matt and I just kind of collaborated and noted some positives from our day, and I'll go through them quickly. I talked about the data-informed interventions and progress monitoring practices. They even had what we would consider positive office referrals. So that's very non-traditional from the means of how we usually disaggregate behavioral data, and that's by students that are being referred for negative things. They actually had a positive referral system where students were being referred for the positive things that they did. They also had a strong relationship with the community. And one of the things that I was able to note is that a lot of the community support even came from the northeast side of Columbia. So that means that there are opportunities in our home, so to speak, of people that have a willingness to help students, especially those that have opportunities to do trades and other areas that they may not be afforded in their base schools, utilizing community partnerships to help kids to develop those particular trades. Also, ongoing professional development opportunities for staff. One of the things that I was grateful to do this year was to do several roundtable professional development with our staff. However, what we find is that a lot of times our professional learning opportunities, the staff at Blythewood Academy may not be attending have opportunities to attend to collaborate with others in the traditional schools in the district. So this was an opportunity where those in the building for the alternative setting were receiving the same quality, if not more, professional development to be able to serve their students. Now, this was something that I don't know if we could adopt, but the kids started was pretty cool. And they had what's considered like Incentives Friday. It was a whole room where it was a pool table and other sorts of things, but it was an encouragement for students on a incentivized model that if they were able to do certain things successfully academically and behaviorally, they would gain that privilege to that game room. And so what Matt and I really got out of it was ensuring that whenever we are providing recommendations to Blythewood Academy, that it's very focus driven on what the mission and vision is, and understanding that the adults in the building have to believe it, and sometimes that has to be fostered and be more of our opportunities for trainings to really even understand the children that they're serving, and that everything about the alternative setting has to be very intentional to be able to get the positive outcomes. And so it was just a beautiful visit. You could get the sincerity out of everyone. And it was also a focus on not just the emotional feel of the environment, but also the physical. The students took a part. The bathrooms looked like something that you would see going to like a hotel and having things that made you feel welcomed. And the principal's mindset behind that was, that you create environments of success and students will take care because they have ownership and they know that everything that you have designed is specifically for them. And so I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity. I'm hoping that we can also schedule a time, Mr. Trapp, for you to go out as well and do a learning walk, and perhaps have an opportunity to do a learning walk with the staff at Blythewood Academy,
Mhm.
because it's easy to kind of provide recommendations, but it's one of those things where you gain more out of it by actually being there. And so we're very excited about the other visit opportunity as well, but just very pleased with what's happening in Kershaw as it relates to their interventions for students.
Thank you, Ms. Hutcherson. Mr. Trapp, any questions or comments?
Well, I tell you what, I do have a couple. I don't know if this is the best time about
Sure.
Blythewood Academy and the Family Intervention Services. Um, the new facility on Spears Creek. How much of I know the Pinnacle Point offices are supposed to move out there and be operational, what, maybe spring? Is that correct? Is that what they've told you guys?
I believe the hope is this time next year. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Oh, so realistically, we'll probably the next school year, 25, 26, 27, you'll still be where you are in Pinnacle Point.
We will definitely
But
be here through next year. Yes, sir.
okay, okay. So okay, the following year we'll be out there. Um, Do you, and I'm just curious, do you think that facility out there, I went and toured it and I thought it looked like it would be a much better opportunity to accomplish our goals here. Do you think that, you looking forward to that? Do you think it's going to be the case?
Oh, absolutely. And to your point, it's large enough to house and host several programs. Not only student services, we know that special services will be out there. IT has a footprint. Richland County Sheriff's Department will have a hub out there. So far, phase one, which is pretty much where the focus has been right now, is ready to roll. And again, that'll put special services, ourselves, and Richland County in there. They said by this time next year, so we're hopeful. Yes, sir. Which still
Okay. Yeah.
leaves, I'd say that
That,
might
that-
be a quarter to the third of the building we just discussed. There's a lot of room still left.
oh yeah, yeah. No, that is an absolutely huge building. And has there been any concrete talk about Blythewood Academy being moved out there? I know there had been some discussion on what it would take to make that work out there. Is that something that you guys have been involved with?
Absolutely. I never want to overstep our friends at operations in their game plan, but we have had some tabletop discussions and even put some blueprints out and drafted some ideas. But of course, it's going to be a phased approach. Of course, it's going to come down to funding. But realistically, we looked at the options of possibly Blythewood Academy and or adult ed, or both possibly fitting into that space. So there's potential there, but it comes down to cost, availability, but also a phased approach. So we know that those are aging buildings. We know there's a possibility. I will speak for student services. If we could be under the same roof with the students that we're serving and have direct contact, I think that's significant. So I'm a big advocate for it. But we'll see what the next year brings and opportunities to continue to kind of phase into that building.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I think you're absolutely correct with that. And one thing, and I'd just like your input on this, as far as things like transportation. The city buses serve that area. Is that something that, from your standpoint, I know from an operations standpoint, it seems like a great idea, but from the students that you interact with, is that something that would be a great asset for our
Absolutely. That's
programs?
yes, sir. That's been a big part of the conversation is being able to provide public transportation for the first time to an alternate setting. I think it could drastically impact the families and the students that we serve. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everything. It looks like it'd be a great situation from my standpoint. And of course, I'm talking to a different group altogether, and it sounds like
Mhm.
it'd be. You guys think it'd be great as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for that. So we'll see how it works out.
All right. Um, Next up, I'll tell you where this work came from. Dr. Elkin Scott recognized that Richland 2's made a pretty significant investment in Upbeat and providing feedback to every campus and school, kind of a barometer check of your folks in the building. And so she was curious and challenged us, well, how are things at Blythewood Academy? And so you see here, we pulled several pieces of data, and that's 1 through 4. But this A here is just kind of a summary of everything going on. It's great feedback from their staff. I'm just going to highlight. There we go. All right, so I won't bore you with every single thing, but pretty much high scores. You see the primary strengths here, peer collaboration. So those teachers working together, and that is cross curriculum. So you got math working with science, science working with English, working with PE. So the collaboration there they recognize is a strong point for their staff. It is a stressful job for any teacher, but specifically that setting to where we're really trying to rehabilitate some kiddos to be in a better version of themselves. So seeing that work-life balance, that was a very big highlight for the staff there. And also the trust, the administration and teacher trust is very strong. So great feedback there of how things go with that staff. We really try to hire the best and maintain the best. And Blythewood Academy's done a good job of holding on to some great teachers. And some things we're going to work on is just connecting our support staff with our teaching staff. There's just a little bit of a separation there. Where you see collaboration with faculty was 98%, staff kind of felt it was 39, so that's an opportunity for us there. Where trust was 91% with faculty, staff was 44%, and then that work-life balance 96 versus 82. So again, these are just some different perspectives, but I think some critical areas that we can help support Blythewood Academy on. But again, it kind of goes a little bit deeper into many different things, but just want to give you the feedback. We were asked to get some data to share on how are things in the barometer of Blythewood Academy. All right, Mr. Trapp.
Oh,
That
I
kind
do
of
have
makes
one.
yes, sir.
I'd like to make one comment on the stuff you just, that I saw some what I would consider very negative numbers there, and I think that's a very positive thing. And the reason I say that, it appears that we've got some honesty going on. In other
Absolutely.
words, people are sharing how they feel, and the best way to improve things is to know how people really feel. So I like you don't want to see negative numbers, but it's good to see them sometimes because it helps you come up with a direction on where to go. So I hope that is very helpful from y'all's
Absolutely.
standpoint.
And to your point, when Ms. Hutcherson and I reviewed this, we recognized two things. Number one, the amount of staff that participated in the survey, which is always a great thing to see. But to your point, the level of honesty, to where people really say, here's how I feel and here's where we're at. And I think it's just going to help Blythewood Academy be that much stronger. We kind of highlight those opportunities there. So good point. And that kind of leads us to the next steps. Mr. Trapp, we've thrown a lot at you, and hopefully you got a little bit of an understanding of some of the things we focused on. But this is your
Mhm.
committee. While you're thinking about next steps and reflecting, if you'd like, I might skip over to item 7 and kind of show you some policies we'll be reviewing, and that might
Okay.
lead into the next steps. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right, so while you're reflecting on 6.1, I'm going to jump into 7.1 real quick. And so far this year, you kind of see the work we've worked on. We did some policy revision back in March. April, we did our visits. We're, of course, meeting today, but our work this summer is we're looking at the Richland 2 discipline matrix. And it needs some revision. And that's directly coming from schools because currently we have one document, a matrix that reflects our code of conduct, but that is all 3 bands, elementary, middle, and high in one matrix. And where that may have served a purpose in the past, I think it's created some confusion and lack of consistency to where where behaviors increase, how are we responding? So that's some work we're going to do this summer. And also we've heard clearly the bus discipline matrix. We've heard a lot of reflection, some things on the bus have not gone well. So those are 2 individual areas that we're really going to work on this July and have that wrapped up as we start the school year. We just want to kind of share that work with you as we come back to our next steps. What are your thoughts, Mr. Trapp?
Oh gosh, I'm completely overwhelmed. I mean, I have. Oh gosh, I don't really. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll say this. I think the work you guys are doing, in my opinion, is probably the most important work we can do. And it isn't difficult. If you just look at some of the things that's happened in our community in the last couple of months, we see how important it is that students that are in need, that we identify those students and we do everything in our power to help them become the best people they can. There's just no greater calling in life. I mean, we need to make sure people receive the academic help they need, things like that. But when it comes to the behavior, our behavior as teenagers can limit our entire life. And what we can, everything we can do here to help identify children and help them uh, reach their potential is so important. And I really think I think the things we're doing are really great, and I really just think we need to build on them. And I look forward to learning as much as I can about this. I know I visited Blythewood Academy this past school year one day with Dr. Moore, and there was a mentoring class. Or that's how I call it, class. I don't know if that's the right term, but I believe that was provided by a grant from some local businesses. So that things like that are great. We need to reach out there, and every resource we can find, we need to take advantage of it and provide these services to our students. So that's
yeah.
really. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say at this point.
No worry. We're giving you the quick and fast introduction, a lot to reflect on. So why don't we focus on over this next month? We'll prepare for those revisions that we'll bring back to you near the end of
Mhm.
July or so. Looking at our code of conduct and our discipline matrix for both school discipline as well as bus discipline. And from that, it might kind of spur our next steps going into the fall. How does that sound?
That sounds like a winner. Yeah, I know. I worry about things like transportation and buses and stuff. That's just that's such a hard environment to control, and so
Absolutely.
I think we definitely need to look into some things there because and I think we need to think about budget items. I mean, if we need to keep our students safe and everything, we just got to. We can't let money keep us from doing that. I don't know how, we don't have the money, but we got to come up with a plan on how to, yeah. And correct me or make sure I understood this. Our discipline matrix really, it doesn't distinguish much between our three, our elementary, middle, and high schools. It's all kind of one big matrix. Is that correct?
It is one matrix and it gives a progression of consequences. But
Mm,
it really starts from almost an elementary appropriate consequence all the way to a high school consequence. But someone who's new to administration or new to us may see that and be, okay, well, I'm in high school. I need to start at step 1. Well, no, that's more appropriate for an elementary student.
yeah.
So we really need to kind of sort that out to where any administrator can see that, be consistent. I think that consistency is going to help us by applying the right consequence, but also helping deter some behavior. So We'll do
Yeah.
some work on that. And I think another next step that'd be very helpful for you is Ms. Hutchinson and I are going to dive into kind of a year in review of discipline. So we'll have a discipline data update to
Hmm.
include any sort of bus incidents or anything. So you have a clear view of what we accomplished last year and some critical points we can focus on this year. So we'll have a data dive ready for you. We'll bring revisions to that discipline matrix for bus and for school conduct. And we'll have those ready for our next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, Ms. Hutcherson, anything else?
Think you covered it all. Sorry. I was
Miss,
hovering, but it wouldn't click.
all good. Ms. Morrison, anything you'd like to share?
Not at this time. I think that, Matt, you were talking about a July meeting,
Hmm.
but I'm wondering, I know the academics committee, we decided not to do a July meeting. We are
Okay.
starting fresh in August. And with, like a good cadence of meetings, August on. Mr. Chap, would you be open to that idea, like the next meeting being in August?
Oh, that'd be fine. Yeah, I realize this is the public can will be able to hear everything I say, but July, I'm doing a job this summer. In July, I will be working 7 days a week. So anything I can put off to August, I am.
We,
Okay.
we, we will
So that'd
focus
be
on it.
fine with me.
We will focus on an August date. Very good. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Sounds
Well, with that,
good.
Mr. Trout, would you like to adjourn us?
Yes. Seeing there's no further business, the meeting is adjourned.
All right. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.